So what are the other factors that prevent, I'm sorry I called you gay, by the way, but I think I'm just too old or something. I'm like, why isn't anyone married? You tell me, why aren't people married?
Well, I mean, honestly, it's the women.
Today, we'll be reacting to a conversation between Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes. I'll be specifically focusing on a section at the end of this conversation where Tucker begins asking Nick why so few people are getting into relationships and getting married. Throughout this whole interview, I found myself having a very nuanced reaction to Nick and Tucker. To me, it seemed that every other statement I would agree and then disagree. So I think reviewing this video will be a great exercise for us as Christian men on how to thoughtfully digest what someone is saying without painting them as all wrong or all right. The first clip begins with Tucker asking Nick how porn is affecting relationships these days.
But it sounds like you're describing something that's everywhere, that affects everybody, and do you think it's related to the huge decline in like actual sex and relationships and marriage, screwed up dating? All of this derives in part from porn, do you think?
I think it's a huge part of it. It's a huge factor. And it's even on the other side too. It's become so destigmatized for women to actually participate in porn. People don't even recognize that OnlyFans is a whole separate category. It's an innovation in the realm of pornography, because you have what everyone knows as porn, which is like videos of porn stars, like dedicated career sex workers having sex in a relatively controlled environment or something like that. But then you get OnlyFans, which is like Patreon for nudes or sex. And basically, there's now a very large subculture, much larger than people want to admit, of women who the moment they turn 18, that is what they do, is they make an OnlyFans account and they become an amateur porn star. And it is completely casual, because you could say that maybe 10 years ago, even at the heyday of internet porn, to be in porn, you got to be a porn star. Like that's your life and that's your career and that's who you are. And it's very shameful. With OnlyFans, it's like having a TikTok. It's like, here's my link tree. Here's my Instagram account. Here's my Facebook account. Here's my YouTube. And here's my OnlyFans.
My response to what Nick shared is that, yes, there is a moral pollution in society. The women have become just as sexually degraded as the men. However, my critique of Nick is that he lumps men and women into overly broad and large generalizations. I think that is a mistake. There's a big difference between women and a woman. To me, this is the whole point of Tucker bringing Nick onto his show. Tucker and Nick have had disagreements, but throughout this video, I think they did a good job of reacting to each other's differing beliefs with a nuanced view, recognizing that not all conservatives and all liberals have the same views. Likewise, it's unrealistic to think that all women are using OnlyFans or that there are no godly women left. That idea is a projection based on personal experience and an overconsumption of internet examples of toxic women. The fact is, most women are godless, but there still are godly options out there.
So what are the other factors that prevent, I'm sorry I called you gay, by the way, but I think I'm just too old or something. I'm like, why isn't anyone married? You tell me, why aren't people married?
Well, I mean, honestly, it's the women. The women are extremely liberal. No one talks about that. Increasingly they do, especially after the last election. There's a 45-point difference between men and women. The men are extremely conservative, increasingly. The women are extremely liberal.
What are they liberal on? What issues? Like, what does that mean, liberal?
Oh, they're very feminist.
Like, actually?
Extremely feminist, yes.
They don't believe that, do they?
I think they do.
Really?
Absolutely,
yes. How could you believe that? I think gender roles are a construct, that none of this is inborn. Like, you'd have to be an idiot to think that.
They like the idea of it. They like because of course I think all women naturally want strong men.
Of course, obviously.
They naturally want a Chad. They want like a tall, buff guy. But I think they like the idea of None of them want to work either. None of them
That's what
actually
I'm
want
saying.
to work.
No, that's what I'm saying. Of course,
Right.
It's obviously true. It's always been true. Work outside the home.
Right.
They don't have enough work at home. There's
Yes.
a lot to do. But no, I completely agree. So that's why I question, like, they're feminists in what sense?
Yes. And, they like these vague appeals to equality. We want a chance to work and we want respect. And, ultimately, I think the whole political system is just based around women never being accountable for any of their choices. Ultimately, that seems to be that's what abortion is.
Yeah, of course.
Because 99% of abortions are elective. So they say it's an unplanned pregnancy. You had sex out of wedlock with someone you didn't intend to have kids with. So now we have to kill the kids in the womb. And, these no-fault divorce laws. These women get married to guys maybe they never intend to stay with. And then when they're out, they're done. And they want child support and they want half the stuff. And I think a lot of men are looking at women and they're very liberal. They're overweight. They have a very high estimation of themselves. I think that people call it hoflation.
Hoflation?
Yes, their sense of their own looks and sexual value is very inflated. And so a lot of people are looking at these like frumpy, obnoxious, loudmouth, liberal women who are also very promiscuous and saying this is not actually appealing at all. And I don't want to start a family with a person
Sounds
like
awful.
this. Yeah, it is.
I think Nick did a pretty good job of answering Tucker's question. Nick was asked for a general explanation for the reason why so many people are not getting married. And basically, he explained that there are a lot more conservative men than there are conservative women. And I think that is generally true. However, I go back to my main critique. I think there's more nuance to the reality of the situation. While there are millions and millions of liberal women out there who would make a man's life miserable if they married them, we can't forget that there still are many conservative Christian women out there too. I think Nick makes it seem like 99% of women are crazy feminists. I think it's probably more like 75%. It's still bad out there, but considering the fact that Donald Trump did win the majority vote, I think we can conclude there obviously are some conservative women out there.
But if you believe in the patriarchy, as I fervently do, because it's just reality, we didn't choose the system. We were born into a system that is part of nature, can't get out of it. So if you believe that that's true, which it is, then you think that men should lead. And if it's going to be better, men should make it better because that's their job.
Right.
So you don't want to give them a pass, do you? And be like, it's all the girls suck. So
I don't even blame it on the women because I think that it's the incentive structures. Women are allowed to do this by the legal system, by kind of social norms. Technology is a big part of it. The attention that is available to women. Women go on Instagram and they get attention from thousands of men. So it's the incentives. But I would say that, because I hear this all the time, people say, well, the men need to step up and be better and lead the women. Easier said than done.
I agree. Of course, I agree with that.
They're at war with the system, and not even just the system, but also society.
I think this was a very nuanced section. I found myself agreeing and disagreeing with a lot that was said here. Big picture, I think what Nick was saying, I could be wrong, is that men have allowed the system that has allowed feminist women to thrive. And I agree with that. I think men are the leaders of the world, and thus, if there is a problem in our world, it's usually because we have led poorly. But I also agree that it's easier said than done for men to lead women back into morality and biblical views. All that to say, there's no easy answer. I think there's enough blame to go around for everyone. Ultimately, the solution, therefore, is not going to come from just godly men or just godly women. Rather, it's going to come when enough godly men and enough godly women form families together, raise a new generation with biblical values, and when those kids become adults, they can reshape society with biblical values.
Because let's say you find one of these so-called good girls who's Christian and traditional, but through osmosis, wherever you go, she's going to be in society. She's going to be on TikTok. She's going to be on Instagram. She's going to be talking to other women. And maybe she's one way when you meet and get married, but 10 years down the road, 15 years, 20 years down the road, people change. And I think that women, as kind of the ultimate conformists, the ultimate enforcers of like social norms, I think eventually the pressure from society kind of gets to them.
Here's where I disagree with Nick. I think a godly woman will not even have TikTok or be spending hours upon hours scrolling on the internet. I also think a godly woman will have a real support system of other godly women so that they're not going to be influenced over the decades into society's lies. This is why all Christians need each other. For example, my wife is homeschooling our children right now, and basically all of her friends are other homeschool moms with biblical and conservative values. Her friends are not going to lead her into liberalism because none of them are liberals. So I don't think this is a valid reason for men to avoid getting married. If you marry a real Christian woman, she will be growing in Christ just as you should be growing in Christ. Yes, we both change, but we should be becoming more Christ-like, not less.
And a lot of them will go in
Depends
a
what
different
kind of
direction.
husbands they have. I mean, if there's real leadership at home, I don't know a single happily married woman who's liberal. Not one. I know a lot of married women. I mean, I'm 56. All the women I know are married.
Mhm.
And every happily married woman is non-liberal.
Mhm.
I can't even imagine. There's no category for happily married, middle-aged liberal woman. There hasn't never been one.
Right.
So, like, maybe the job is to, make a girl happy and, like, all this nonsense ends.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that could be a bottomless pit too, because the one critique I have of the men is, and you're right about this, they enable this behavior.
Well, that's for sure.
It's epidemic of simps who, and especially with Christians, I've noticed this. This is why Andrew Tate has so much appeal, and the Christians are kind of losing this conversation. Andrew Tate's a Muslim polygamist who is very chauvinistic, and you could even argue it as someone who has ran an OnlyFans site himself, like is not an observer, let's say, of Christian sexual morality.
No.
But men are going with him because he's putting women in their place. He's talking about patriarchy and women's place in a society like that. Whereas Christian men, Catholics, Protestants alike, are both kind of tone policing the men. And they worship their wives. They worship the women, put them on a pedestal. And they kind of get bossed around. They get henpecked by the women.
I think we're required to love our wives. Like, that's, all over the New Testament. Husbands, love your wives. Wives, respect your husbands. That seems like a very natural balance to me.
Yeah, and I think that you have to love your wife as your wife.
Yeah.
A lot of men...
As opposed to what? Your mom?
Well, no, like your buddy.
No.
Because I hear this all the time, and I hate this. Guys will say, I married my best friend. And I think, she's your wife. She's not your best friend. Because there's a difference.
What is the difference?
I think that when you talk about your best friend, you're a peer. You're an equal. And I think your best friendships are with other men. And I think that your wife ultimately is subordinate to you. She's your helpmate. Yeah. And ultimately, as the man in the marriage and as the father, you have authority, the final say over the household.
Well,
and
she
can give advice. It's not to say I'm not a freak where you say, shut up, woman. Of course, you discuss things with your wife and your wife gives input, but the authority rests with the man.
Of course. But God set up this kind of amazing system where men are physically stronger. Mm-hmm. So, of course, you could make your wife do whatever you wanted. You're bigger than she is.
Right.
But he also instilled in men this desire to please your wife. That's a very natural thing. You want your wife to be happy.
Absolutely.
And the whole happy wife, happy life thing is completely real. It's like you can't get away from it. It's not like all of these things. It's not a choice. It's the biological reality that you live with, that you were born with. You want your wife to be happy. And if she's unhappy, you're unhappy.
There was a lot there that would take a long time to respond to. I think there are some interesting points about Andrew Tate being so appealing because Christian male leaders are basically simps. I think there's some truth to that. I don't think happy wife, happy life is good counsel, though. I think a husband must be willing to make his wife unhappy sometimes if he's going to lead her well. Otherwise, she's the one who's actually leading him. But all that to say, I thought this exchange was a great example of how we can challenge each other's ideas without getting defensive. I thought Tucker offered some pushback and Nick received it with a respectful and open attitude. I think we need more of this as men. Most men are too sensitive today to actually learn from each other. For iron to sharpen iron, we need to be able to disagree with each other.
To a much greater extent than vice versa, right?
Yeah.
I think men care about their wives being happy much more than wives care about their husbands being happy.
Yes.
I have noticed. And that's compensation for their lack of physical power. That's my view of it. And that's why it is this kind of perfect balance. But somebody needs to be the final decision maker. I completely agree. And when you give up that, when you abrogate that, there's no respect, there's unhappiness, and then there's infidelity.
I've talked about this concept before. The way I've explained it is that for a relationship to be healthy, a man needs to find a woman who he can make happy. In other words, a man doesn't need a woman to serve him like he serves her. Rather, a man needs a woman who respects him for the way that he is serving her. I think this is why Paul said in Ephesians 5:33, husbands should love their wives and wives should respect their husbands. Of course, both need love and respect, but for a relationship to thrive, the emphasis must be on respecting a man and loving a woman. She wants a man who can make her happy, and a man wants a woman that he can actually make happy, rather than being with a woman who is never satisfied regardless of what he gives her.
Right. Well, that's the ingredient that's missing. The way I would put it very succinctly is men right now are the responsible party, but have no authority. And that doesn't work.
No, it doesn't.
You know, if the buck stops with you and you're to blame and you're the responsible one, then you also need to be able to have the final say and call the shots. And one without the other doesn't work. And I think that's really
smart and absolutely right.
For a relationship to work, God's order must be followed. Husbands must sacrificially lead, while women must respectfully submit.
I do think, I just noticed this, that men who stay unmarried for too long become like kind of fragile. There's something about the give and take. There's something about living with, in fact, I think it's the key to life, someone you don't fully understand, that broadens you, that keeps you always thinking, that makes you wiser, more patient, more thoughtful, more self-aware, and more flexible. And those are all good qualities. And the absence of that, like in homosexuality or like men who are single too long, they get very rigid. Have you ever noticed this? Like, I like things the way I like them, and they just get like, no.
Oh, yeah. I certainly get what you mean by that.
Yeah, you don't want that.
Yeah. I would say that when you say you don't fully understand women, to me, I feel like women are very simple in terms of...
Have you ever lived with one?
No, I haven't lived with them, but I mean, and don't get me wrong, maybe it's difficult, but I feel like they're pretty simple.
We're all pretty simple. I mean, no one's more simple than I am, but yeah, we're all pretty simple. But what I mean is, like, on a day-to-day, the level of experience, like, you don't always understand what they're saying, because it's never about what they say it's about.
Right.
And men just tend to be kind of dog-like in their straightforwardness. You know, I'm hungry, I'm horny, whatever it is.
I disagree. I feel like men are complicated. I feel like women are like, I'm hungry, I'm horny. I feel like men are very complicated.
Really, how?
Because men are masters of the universe. Women are the universe. You know, this is what Spengler says about them. And so I think that men have like a deep connection to things like math and space, and they want to conquer the world.
Of course.
And, you know, things like this. And women, I feel like, are actually very primal and instinctual.
Yes.
They want security.
Earthier.
Yes. Sonic. You know, they're of the
100%.
terrestrial.
Never embarrassed by bodily functions. Men are so squeamish.
Yes.
Women are not at all. They give birth. No, that is absolutely true. But I mean, in the way that women present their concerns, there's almost always something that's not being fully expressed. Like, I got mad at you last night because I was pissed about something last year. That's not a male thing to do. You can't remember what happened last year.
Right.
Right? And so, but whatever the point is, men and women talk past each other constantly. They don't always know what the other one is saying. And that frustration actually gives way to like great beauty over time, I would say.
I don't know. I personally find women very frustrating when they are not expressing. And I just view that as like...
That's the beauty of it.
I see, the way I look at it is like, when you look at your favorite TV shows,
right?
The Sopranos, Breaking Bad, it's like the wife is the villain. Because it's like the main character, if the wife could just get out of the way, would be running the show. And that's kind of how I feel like Ayn Rand, I agree with her about this. She said that the wife's role is like hero worship. The guy is the hero. The guy is supposed to be the entrepreneur, the conqueror, whatever. And the woman is really supposed to support the man's goals and be in his world. And I've
that's the
felt that
last
way.
thing successful men need is more power worship, more hero worship, more, you're so great. Well, you get that at work. You don't want that at home. You become an unbearable asshole. And then you fall prey to what destroys every successful man, which is hubris. Like, you mistake yourself for God. You need someone who's not interested in what you do at all, only interested in you. And that's how you become balanced and wise. That's how you know your own limits. Because the ass kissing is what kills you. It's not, I mean, you had someone come to murder you at home. It doesn't seem to have affected you that much.
And if I were married, dude, she would never let me hear the end of it.
Well, that's probably true, but that's not what destroys men. It's not adversity that destroys men. It's comfort and flattery that destroys men. Right? That's what happened to King David. It's what happens to them all.
Yeah.
You're so great. You can never go wrong.
I just feel like we have I don't feel like we have an abundance of affection from women.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, in terms of where the pendulum is at, I feel like the women are very unloving to the men. That's why, like, they don't cook. Because that's like the best way to express a love for a man. I said this on my show the other night. I'm like, the most beautiful words a woman could say is like, I made you dinner. I made you cookies.
Yeah.
Because that is like an act of love. And I think that, you know, speaking as maybe from a
I think Tucker did a good job of showing Nick some value to having a wife that perhaps Nick hasn't thought about before.
different generation, the way that men feel now is like, you know, women are not really providing too much. They expect so much from the men. They want the man to be rich and provide.
Yeah.
They want the man to be fit and a real leader and a real man. They also want to split the chores with the man. They want the man to do half the laundry and half the dishes and things like that. And it's like, so what do you do all day? You're on TikTok, you're like doom scrolling and eating Cheetos. Like what actually are you providing in the relationship? So I just feel like in terms of the deficit, it's like women are very emboldened. They're too, I think, assertive, always giving their opinions, always critiquing, always, you know, I think that they're very bold right now. And sarcastic. I think that's a big reason why they're not very attractive.
I get it. All I would say is that in a happy marriage, all of that goes away. There's no arguing about who does what. People fall seamlessly into the roles they were born into. They acknowledge those, are not insecure about it at all. They express love in a whole bunch of different ways by serving each other. It's like super easy. And all of that, obnoxious, entitled, you don't make enough money, all that crap just disappears.
I won't belabor the point, but basically this comes back to my main critique of what Nick has said throughout this video. He has some valid points. I think he's just missing a huge part of reality. There are still godly women who want to submit to their husbands and be a traditional wife. I think too much time on the internet watching red pill content will give a man a skewed reality. He'll end up judging every woman through the actions of most women. And that just never works in relationships. We need to assess each woman for what she believes and for what she does. Because yes, most women are crazy these days, but not all of them. We don't want to be judged by the actions of most men, so we need to let each woman pass or fail the biblical standards based upon her actions, not all women's actions. Hey, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up so I know you want more content like this from me. I'm Mark from ApplyGodsWord.com. Until next time, God bless.